COVID forced career change, how I reinvented myself. Good afternoon. My name is Tyra Dyson, and we will begin. Before we begin, I'd like to share a few housekeeping notes. But first, I want to sincerely say thank you all for your patience as we have been having a few technical difficulties. So we really appreciate you being here. Today, we are using the Event EQ Hive platform. We wanted to provide a few tips on how to make the most of your experience today. Join the session chats to share your thoughts on the content and connect with your colleagues about the session that you're currently attending. We also encourage you to visit the exhibitors link in the lobby to learn more about our partners who helped us put this event together. Spend some time visiting our sponsor pages in the exhibitor section to see how their support can enhance your experience. If you have any technical support questions, feel free to type your questions in the chat box, or you can email capital@pcma.org for prompt assistance. If you have any questions for the speaker, please use the Q&A function to type in your question. Look at the Publish tab in the Q&A section to upvote your questions that have already been asked. The speaker will address all questions at the end of this session. On-demand sessions are also available after the conference 24/7 for your viewing pleasure for 90 days following the conference. So you will be able to access this session and the other breakouts if you miss anything. At the end of this presentation, there will be a special video performance by Visit Detroit. So stick around for a few minutes before heading back to the lobby for your next breakout section. Now it is my pleasure to introduce today's distinguished panel. Our panel will be moderated by Jasmine Dyson, Chief Experience Officer of the Brand Experience Lounge. Jasmine is a serial entrepreneur, brand strategist, and digital operations manager who helps executive leaders, small businesses, and nonprofits refine their vision, strategically connect with their target audience, and dominate in their space. Jasmine will be joined by Miriam Gauci, Jeff Fugate, and Travis Peterson, who will share their stories on how they've adapted after furlough or being laid off due to this pandemic. Please join me in welcoming Jasmine Dyson to the presentation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the COVID Forced Career Change session. My name is Jasmine Dyson. As Tyra mentioned, I am the CEO of the Brand Experience Lounge, which is a branding and experiential marketing agency for solopreneurs, small businesses, and nonprofits. Today, I am joined by an amazing panel of guests who will be discussing how they reinvented themselves during this career transition. COVID has affected a lot of industries, specifically the hospitality industry, at the highest rate. So we want to discuss some ways that we can help you, like these panelists have, reinvent yourself in the marketplace and reposition yourself for future work. So I will go ahead and introduce you to our distinguished panelists. First, we have Travis Peterson, who is a sales executive with Marriott International, who is currently furloughed. Then we have Miriam Gauci, who is a 15-year veteran in the industry in the planning and conference exhibit space. And then we have Jeff Fugate, who is also a veteran sales executive in hospitality. So everyone, welcome our panelists here by typing in the chat. So we're going to start off by giving our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves to you, to tell you a little bit about who they are and what their career journey has been like in hospitality. We want to get to know more about them, how they started their journey, why hospitality was the industry of choice for them, and then some highlights in their careers. So panelists, take it away. Tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Hi, so I'll start first. As Jasmine said, I'm Miriam, and I've been in the association world for a little over 15 years. I was encouraged by one of my bosses to look into event planning, and it started with a few classes with GW. And after that, I just loved it, and I knew that I had found my passion. So I moved around and I enjoyed it. So I moved around a few associations until I finally found a wonderful home, and I was there for a little over 12 years. Um, and I've never looked back until now, of course. So I'll move it to Travis.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, Travis Peterson, and I've been in the industry going on 21 years now. I know I look like I'm 25. Um, but I started my career right out of college and with Hyatt Hotels, moving from North Carolina to Tampa, Florida, was my first hotel. Stayed there for a few years, moved to Washington, D.C. with Hyatt, moved back, moved to Atlanta with Hyatt Hotels, left Hyatt, moved to Orlando to work for the world's largest entertainment company, which was Disney, and stayed with them for about a year. I called it my sabbatical year. And it was a very interesting year, some great training. Left Disney and joined the mothership of companies, Marriott International, which is who I'm currently employed with, but been on furlough for the last 6 months. And that's been my journey. It's been an amazing career, amazing opportunity in this industry. And the reason why I've stuck around for so long is the people. Everybody is so unique and diverse and different, and you get an experience that's unlike anything from this industry. So it's been a joy to work in. Jeff?
Awesome.
And I agree with you, Travis, about the people. That's really what brought me into the industry. I kind of fell into it by accident back in 2003. A former coworker of mine had joined the Conferon, soon to be Experience organization. And through that connection, I ended up joining the organization in 2003. And I've held sales and marketing leadership role for the company since that time. And unfortunately, like everybody else, with no revenue coming in, cuts have to be made. And so my position was eliminated on June 30th. And it came to a crashing halt all of a sudden, right?
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for that introduction. So now we're going to get into a little bit more about this transition. So I want you guys to take me back pre-COVID. What was the state of your organization? Was it thriving? Were you guys kind of trying to figure some things out, make some transitions? Or just tell us a little bit more about what the state of the organization was before this whole pandemic thing hit.
I'll go.
Well, I'll start. We were about to have a banner year, a record year in some instances, and the last month just destroyed it. But we had some really exciting things going on in the organization in a number of areas, and we were moving full steam ahead on a lot of different areas. So things were golden for us.
Yeah.
Miriam, unmute yourself.
All right. So I'll talk about our association. I had just started my position there. I started at the beginning of March. And so I was new. I was still learning about this association. And honestly, there was just confusion. And just like everybody else, every other association, every person who had to all of a sudden had to come and start working at home, we didn't know how long this was going to take. If we were going to have a conference. We had our annual in June. We didn't know if we were going to have an annual, if we were going to have it, if it was going to be virtual, how we were going to pull that together. It was just, you just didn't know how long this was going to take. And you had to be optimistic every day when you came to work or you logged into work. You just had to be very optimistic. Otherwise, it was... didn't know from day to day what to do. So what we ended up doing is we decided about a month and a half out that we were going to cancel our in-person conference. And then the board of directors voted to have the conference online. And we just pivoted and started working on the online conference. That's how it all started. I mean, it was just scary because we didn't know if anybody was going to join the virtual conference, where the next, where the money was coming from. our annual conference was a big source of revenue for the association, and we were really, really worried at that point.
For Marriott International, we were coming off of some record-breaking years from a hotel perspective and a travel company, and we were expecting the same thing for 2020 as well. All of the forecasts were, showing, nothing but going up, and we hit a brick wall, as almost every other company in the industry did as well. And so the company has had to make some, drastic changes as what they're going to look like moving forward in the future. So.
Okay, so let's talk about that initial kind of feeling when you were notified, or the initial conversations that were had between you and your organization when they decided to make the decision to have you transition out or to furlough. What were those conversations like, and what was your initial response to that conversation?
I guess I'll go since I went first the last time. I was actually relieved because it had been so difficult for the few months prior. I mean, it was me being a senior leader of the company. Every day was about furloughing more people, and it was miserable. I was not, there was no joy in any day. And because I had a hobby that I've been doing, making queso, for fundraising purposes for my daughter's marching band, I just decided I was going to go all in and try to make a go out of it. So for me, it was a little bit of a relief. It was an opportunity for me to eliminate that what if question, if you will, because I've always wondered, what if I just quit my job and went full in on this? And so I'm now getting that opportunity. I'm being forced into that opportunity, but it still feels like an opportunity. And there was just no joy in the day to day, and it still remains that way from the people that I talk to that remain. I wish nothing but the best for my everyone that I left behind, and I really hope that the Experian and every other organization in our industry finds a way to pull out of this as events come back online.
Yeah.
I'll chime in. Yeah. I think the initial call from my leader was almost surreal. Like I heard him, but I really didn't hear him because I'd worked my entire life. And I'd been in this industry for 20 years. So as I was processing it, I was like, oh, we'll be back to work in a couple of weeks or a month. And the month went by and it was like, oh, wait, this is real, And then like reality started to kick in, and it was like, how am I going to pay my bills? And then that's when the anxiety started to kick in of, my own personal stake in this, and the industry that I had given everything to was leaving me on the side of the road, not by, their choice, but because of this pandemic. And it caused me to really do some quick inner self-reflections of how do I move next? How do I ensure that my standard of living, and that with all of that, my friends and my family, that I don't put a burden on them as a single person, So all of that went through my head of processing, and, it's forced me, as Jeff said, into diversifying my income, which I had been thinking and dreaming of doing probably for 10 to 15 years and was always too afraid to do it. And I found my voice during the pandemic.
Good stuff. Miriam, are you still with us?
I am. So It was incredibly sad, I can't tell you, but just because I just started and it looked like such an awesome opportunity. And as planners, we plan meetings, not cancel them. My first job, my first task at my new job was to cancel our annual. I had to call, I reach out to over 20 hotels and call them and explain to them to the convention center. And even though I didn't have a relationship with some of them, because obviously I had not signed those contracts, we all were just so sad and felt this pain together. And it worked out, and everybody was so kind. It was a little sad, but then you sit and you're like, what am I what is next? You know, how much more of this can we take as a planner? We also, or as a hospitality industry altogether, we survived 9/11, we survived the economic downturn, and now this. It's like, okay. It's just really sad. But like Travis says, at first it's like, oh my God, that did just happen. And then you realize that it happened. And in our lives, the people we work with, they're all our friends. So you feel so isolated. You know, all my salespeople that I was friends with, the other meeting planners, the entire community. It was so incredibly isolating and sad in those first few days until you're like, it's okay. You know, life goes on.
Good stuff. So now let's talk to moving forward. So what tools and resources and what habits have you put in place to help you manage this transition? I know, Jeff, you talked about going full force ahead in your queso business, which I think is amazing. But what other things have you done to really make this transition a lot easier for you in your personal life?
Well, for me, I have to learn a whole new business, a whole new industry, because you know, food sales in the retail space is a whole lot different than event planning and execution. Although I am trying to think about experiences, and like, so one of the things, in about 40 minutes here, I'm in the Chicago area right now and meeting up with about 15 people who are going to pick up about 10 gallons of queso. So I'm doing little meetup areas, and I've done it in the DC area a couple of times, in Frederick and Vienna. And so there's a little bit of event like stuff going on, but really for me, it's about the big learning curve, trying to learn and understand, and taking on the right partners moving forward, and all of those types of things. But it's been a lot of fun, and hopefully I can make into something that will sustain us moving forward. And eventually someday have an empty bowl fest, which of course you'll all be invited to as an event, and the food fighters will headline. So that's my vision.
Yes, I look forward to it. Travis.
Yeah, so I have to go back a little bit, because when the furlough hit and after the first month, I had almost like a dream or a voice in my head, and was my best friend who was killed in Pulse, Orlando. And a month before he was killed, he and I had a conversation, and he had just quit his job to start his live cover band in Orlando. And he challenged me to step outside of my corporate hat, my corporate mask that I've worn for 20 years, because he knew my passion. And he was like, T, just do it. And I was like, I can't quit my job. I need my salary. You know, this is me. This is my life. And it was more so being afraid to step out and take a chance. And this furlough really has been almost like a godsend for me, because it forced a lot of inner self-reflection and personal reckonings for me to deal with, from dealing with my own personal financial situation, and then also going after my dream that I'd been afraid of, was writing. I created a blog. I started a blog, and I just posted my 13th blog post last night, and it's completely blown up, out of the blue, and I'm so proud of it. And I'm also writing my first book. I'm working on my book manuscript right now, with some other aspects of my company that's going to launch, hopefully in a couple of months. But out of that darkness and despair and anxiety of how I thought, you know, Travis can't be Travis without the hospitality industry, I found in myself that I needed to diversify my portfolio, my personal brand, who I am, take all of those skills that I've learned over 20 years.
Okay, so I have Travis, I can't wait to read your blog, by the way, and everybody else wants to send this a link to your blog too. I've kind of tried to find the side hustle, I guess, while I'm waiting out to see what the events industry is going to look like. I thought about this. I mean, I've sold so many sponsorships and exhibits, you know, for my conferences, and I've marketed my events, and I've kind of sold the experience and sold the event. So I decided, you know what? Why don't I look into something different, something has nothing to do with our hospitality industry. So I'm working on my real estate license. And I figure even when events start and I actually get a job in the events industry, because that is really my first love and my passion, perhaps I can still keep this going. I this time it's like find a side hustle, queso for Jeff and writing for Travis, and maybe selling homes is going to be my thing. I've also looked at what else I can do within the association world. Even though I'm a meeting planner, when you work for associations, most of the associations are so small, you get pulled into doing a lot of other work. And so I'm trying to think what else I can do. So just kind of trying to figure it out and take it day by day.
Sounds good. So on with that, we are going to talk about next, maximizing your genius. So a part of what we do for a lot of our clients in my agency is we help executive leaders like yourselves reposition themselves into new markets, right? So we help you package your genius, whatever it is that you do well, the things that you know, do, and love, and we help you reposition those skills and monetize them in different ways. So that can include, like Travis talks about writing a book. It can include speaking, having a speaking platform. It can include, building a course, taking those skills that you already have and repositioning them into different industries. So that's what we're going to talk about next. What skills do you feel you've gained during your career path that have helped you out on the other side of this transition that you will, start to reposition in different areas in different ways? So we'll start with you, Jeff. What skills did you acquire in the events industry that you're now using in your queso business?
Yeah, well, I think the first one and most obvious is just the commitment to customer service and providing an excellent experience and thinking about things from that experiential perspective. Because food is somewhat of an experience, and so anything I can do to try to bring those things, the elements of design that we've always used in building our event experiences to this, I'm trying to do in any way I can. So that's number one. I think the experiential piece, and then just that concept of trying to make people happy. Right? What can I do to bring joy in an otherwise time that's pretty joyless? So that's where my focus has really been.
Awesome. Miriam?
Well, I couldn't have said it better than Jeff. Exactly what we do is bring happiness and bring people together. And I thought, you know what? Selling homes. Well, how can I make people more happy? Sell the home that they don't want or need anymore and buy a home that they want. And that's what I'm trying to do. Our people skill, our excellent customer service that we have to provide to our members, we just take that over and sell it somewhere else. And, the marketing skills and all of that good stuff. Jeff said it best.
Awesome. So if you had to give just a few tidbits or tools or resources to other individuals who are in the same space as you right now, what is one thing that you would say to kind of help them think about how they too can reframe their current skills into new industries?
Go, Jeff.
I would just say really think about what you really love to do, what you're passionate about, and start there. And because the time is now, right? You're not going to have, hopefully we'll never have another time like this to deal with. And so anything you can do to think about what truly brings you joy and try to get there, you should do. And I've learned a lot just through listening to different podcasts. There's so many podcasts out there now, virtually on every topic, reading blogs and other things like that, just networking with different people. Everybody has been so helpful in helping me try to, get on this new path. So I just say be a sponge would be my advice, and take in as much as you can of the things that'll help you move whatever direction you're trying to move in.
Yeah, I totally agree. For those who are still in the association world or within the industry, find something else that you can also do, maybe on a volunteer basis. expand what you're doing. Like as a meeting planner, maybe I should have been a little bit more involved with governance. It's not too difficult. Or because we already do a lot of help with the board meetings and things like that, we're involved with that. Or maybe do a little bit more marketing, do a little bit more reach out and help out with membership. I don't know. I mean, take the opportunity, whatever opportunity there is, because if you can't do your exact job, maybe it could be a smoother transition to something else within the association world where we know who we have a lot of contacts. We know that whole entire world. That's what I would do. And on another thought, find a side hustle, whatever that is, find something so different that if you can do this, that you can do that other thing that brings you joy, brings you happiness, still keeps you busy. That's the one thing that it's really hard from going from working full time all the time to all of a sudden everything come to a dead stop. It's really hard to, what am I going to do with myself? That sort of thing. So keep busy, I guess,
Travis?
Yeah, for me, my suggestion would be to take a chance. That dream that you parked for years upon years. Now's the time. It's your opportunity. It's your world to take a chance on yourself, because we've given the corporate companies, the associations, the chances of years of our lives. So now reinvest into yourself, whatever that looks like. If you wanted to open that dog walking business, do it. Who's stopping you but you? So take a chance on it, and your voice is your voice, and don't let anyone dilute it.
Awesome, awesome. So now we're going to transition into the final phase of this, and it's how to recession-proof your career. So thinking back pre-COVID, if you knew you had a crystal ball and it told you that this whole thing was going to set on fire like it did, what are some decisions that you would have made, or some adjustments that you would have made in your life to prepare yourself for this thing? Now, I would say I don't know that there's any way that any of us could have prepared for all that has been 2020. But if you had a crystal ball and you knew that this was coming, how would you have better prepared yourself for the transition? We'll start with Jeff.
Well, I was a little bit fortunate in that I'd already been doing this, making queso for a while, and I was fundraising with it for my daughter's marching band, and I had already kind of started some of the steps to try to commercialize it. So I kind of had a little bit of a head start, I think, and I was a little bit serendipitous for me in my timing. So I'm not sure if I would have done anything different other than maybe accelerate what I had been doing to try to get there. I'm not sure if there's anything that I could have done that would have prevented me from losing the position I had. I mean, that's just a pure matter of numbers and the fact that there's no revenue coming in. I guess it's, just try to understand what your options are in the event of something like this happening. I mean, you should always be thinking, what's plan B if this doesn't work out? Hopefully this will never happen again, right? But it could, right? So I think all of us need to think about what's our plan B if plan A goes sideways.
Good stuff. Travis?
Yeah, for me, I hate doing the Monday morning quarterback, but in this instance, it's a good opportunity to do that. And for me, from my personal experience, I would have set myself up a little bit financially better. I would have been a better steward of my finances over the years, which I was not. And I heard my brother-in-law and my sister in my ear because they are serial entrepreneurs. And I can go back 20 years and they were like, T, you need to have another opportunity of another income, and I just, whatever. I work for the largest hotel companies in the world. That was always, like my safety net. And I was so careless. And my pastor at Alfred Street in Virginia had a sermon back in August of last year, and his whole series for that month was talking about being a better steward of your blessings. And that month stuck with me because it hit me that I wasn't. And I already started to hear those sound waves, echoing in my life. And then fast forward all the way to March and April when my furlough began, and it was like, that's why I was listening to those sermons. He was already, putting me on the path to disrupt my life for the greater.
Mm-hmm.
I'll keep going.
Miriam?
Well, it's kind of hard. I mean, like Travis said, Monday morning quarterbacking. I mean, I had obtained several certifications, stayed very updated and I was quite successful within my own industry. And you think, well, I got my CMP and CAE and CM, and I'm continually, networking and improving myself, you don't expect to find yourself in such a situation, but life kind of gives you whatever, and make queso or make lemonade. You got to do what you got to do. Some days I sit and I'm like, do I really want to go back and face that stress that is event planning world, and then other days I'm like, but you love it, it's gonna come back, don't worry. So you have to like pep talk myself all the time, but gosh, find a side hustle. You never know. I mean, this is so unexpected. You never know what will happen. Working for a huge company like Marriott, or being successful like Jeff with Compran, or me with associations, you just find a side hustle, people.
I second that. So if you had to give one piece of advice to the industry at large with managing this transition, because I know for a lot of individuals who find themselves, furloughed or laid off, it's kind of an individual, experience, and you feel, all the feels about managing that transition for yourself. But what advice would you give to the industry at large, and how, because like Jeff talked about, it was difficult with him in the leadership role to have to watch all of these people laid off and losing their jobs in the process of this whole transition. So if you could give one piece of advice to the industry at large, what is something that you would tell them?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'm a part of a team of 10 for the role that I have at Marriott, and it was all ladies, and I'm the only male on the team, besides our leader. And we had a group chat, and everyone was stressed out, frustrated, the anxiety levels, and I'm somewhat always the calming spirit, even though I have my own internal battles that I'm dealing with. But I always told them, I was like, sometimes we just have to let it go. Like when things are beyond your control, when you have no choice in the situation, you have to literally release it, and when you do that, the anxiety level comes down, and it allows you to focus on your personal situation. How do you get yourself out of whatever issue that you're facing, and focus on you? So release the things that you cannot control, because you can't.
Miriam?
Yeah, similar. I mean, I try to stay in touch with my friends who were my industry colleagues. I go on regular walks. I'm lucky in Northern Virginia. There are a lot of us out here, so I meet them regularly. We have a book club that I try to keep in touch with my other friends with through that. They're all industry friends. Like I said, in our line of work, our friends and colleagues are kind of the same, one and the same. So I'm just trying to keep in touch, not lose faith, and move forward one day at a time. And I don't know, some days are harder than other days, I have to be honest, but you can only do what you can, and you're not alone. And this is happening to so many people, and just, move forward.
Okay, so a lot of what we talked about, and I'm a huge proponent of that, is really the importance of, first of all, building your personal brand. If I had to give anyone advice in the corporate space, your personal brand is everything. And so with that, as you guys are transitioning into new, career paths, and into going out there and starting that dream project that you've had on the shelf all of these years, what are some adjustments, or what are some first steps that you took in making the decision to really go and pursue something else in this time?
I'll chime in. For me, like I had to take a self analysis of what that dream was for myself. I had to write it down, and once I started writing, and I allowed my creativity to flow. Like the ideas were just pouring out of me. And it was one of those things where I had to then prioritize what was really important and was my passion, because there were so
Right.
many ideas that was on the paper. So I would first say, sit back and listen to your inner thoughts and write it down, and then read it out loud, look at it, digest it, walk away from it, come back to it with a glass of wine or water, and take another stab at it. And it's going to talk to you. Like the one thing that you should be doing, it's going to be like that little birdie in your ear chirping in the back of your earlobe saying, pick me, pick me.
Miriam.
Well, I don't. That I've always thought about doing real estate. It just seemed like something fun to do. And then when this hit, I actually confirmed with two of my best friends. One is a third party person, and my neighbor, my friend. I used to be her client, and then my other best friend, my neighbor, Alyssa Colat. A lot of people who know her here. I just sat and I talked with them. I'm like, you know what? We will go back, but I don't know what the industry is going to look like, what it's going to be like, how long it will take. What is something we can do? And I actually have put this. The three of us kind of talked about it, and they encouraged me to look into this, and they might just join me. I don't know. I mean, I've talked it up to them. We can work together. We're all, friends, neighbors. We've all worked before together, and I think we can be successful in this endeavor too. Why not? We have to give it a shot. Like Travis said, go do it. Like something new.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So lastly, before we go into our Q&A, if you could give one piece of advice to current industry professionals who are employed and are still trying to manage what the new normal is like in their jobs and careers, what piece of advice would you give to them?
I say take a breather. Make sure that as these companies start to rebuild and reorganize themselves with you involved, take a step back and breathe, and make sure that you don't take on too much of a stress load of yourself, or you're feeling like, I have to help this company be itself again. Because your mental, your physical, and your emotional state are way more important. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself first.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I feel for the planners who still have their jobs. They've been stretched thin. They've all of a sudden they've put in a place where they have to become virtual event planners, and it's stressful. If you've never done it before, you only know so much knowledge, and all of a sudden this whole new expectations from you. I can't imagine how stressful that is. I feel for them, and I tell, just like Travis said, just take a step back and take some time for yourself while things are being piled on you. I have friends who are still working, and they're just as stressed as those of us who are not working. I think some days it's hard. It's really hard. Take some time and don't try to do everything yourself. And you should take care of yourself first, I think, in this kind of situation.
Good stuff. Thank you. So now we're going to open it up for questions and feedback from our audience members. So if you are in the chat and you're joining us live in the session, go ahead and ask your questions, and we will present those to the panelists to be able to answer for you guys. So let's see. So Travis, I see here one of the requests is that you put the link to your blog in there. So if you want to type that in the chat, we definitely want to check out that blog.
I will.
So So while we wait for some more of those questions to come through, I'll give you some tips just from my professional experience and working with people who are building their personal brands, especially corporate leadership. I would say, you know, some of the advice that the panelists have given you tonight is great advice. Really assess who you are, what you're really good at, and the parts of your job that you really love. I think sometimes, you know, there are different motivations for why we do what we do in our careers. But I think, you know, the joy of life, and especially, you know, grabbing it and taking your power, is really doing the things that you enjoy. Especially as you start to build side hustles and become an entrepreneur and build a business, you'll find out really quickly that if you don't eliminate the things and the parts of the process that you don't enjoy, it can consume you. And that's why I think a lot of people are so afraid to step out on their own and to do their own thing, because they feel like they have to be what I call the EEO, or the CEO, Chief Everything Officer of their business. But you don't. So, you know, really sit down and think about what parts of your jobs and your careers you absolutely love, and take those things to start to build a side hustle, or what I like to call diversify your portfolio. So even as you transition back into corporate, or as you are still employed in corporate, think about ways that you can monetize those skill sets outside of the workplace. I think so often we are so committed to our jobs or our organizations, as Travis talked about, that we don't realize that, you know, you can take those same things that you already know, do, and love at work, and transition them and monetize them outside of the workplace, and create a stream of income that you control. I am a huge proponent. I don't believe that everybody is called to be an entrepreneur, at least not a full-time entrepreneur. But I definitely believe that you should have one stream of income that you control. So whatever that is, you definitely want to explore who you are, what you're good at, what you love to do, and really position yourself. I mean, we live in a digital age. A lot of us are on social media sharing. Use that as a platform and an opportunity. Don't just post about what's going on at your job on LinkedIn. Talk about some of your skill sets. Talk about some of your processes and how you got to where you are. What makes you great at your job? What are some of the, you know, behind the scenes tips and skills and resources that you're using to be able to help you do your job more efficiently? People connect to people, and that's, you know, such a huge part of building your personal brand, is not just sharing the wins and the numbers and all that stuff, but also sharing how you got the process that it took for you to get to that win, the process that it took you to be able to do your job well. A lot of what you guys talked about building relationships, is a huge proponent of really being able to step out on faith and do your own thing, right? When people do business with people they know, like, and trust. So because you have already built relationships inside of the hospitality industry, which is a huge part of what you do, go ahead and leverage those connections in other areas, and use those, you know, use those as those relationships as opportunities to produce something else for yourself. But like I said, the number one piece of advice I would give you is to diversify your portfolio. Find other ways to build additional streams of income that you control, because none of us have any control over what goes on in the world. But we can take power and control over our individual lives and set ourselves up better to be able to, you know, just live and thrive in the earth. You know, with so much going on around us in 2020, it's not just, you know, being furloughed or laid off that a lot of people are dealing with. There's so much going on in the world as well. So you want to be able to create your own little piece of happiness if possible. And so that would be the piece of advice that I would give. Let's see if we have any more comments or questions in here. Good comments.
You do have another question, Jasmine, and the question that said, when those tough days come, how do you keep going emotionally and even financially? Those dreams have to pay the bills. So what do you do? Anybody have any suggestions?
Panelists, you wanna answer that?
What was the question? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
So they did say that when those tough days come, how do you actually keep going? Especially emotionally and things that you even mentioned earlier, Travis, financially, like how do you keep going? Because of course those dreams have to pay the bills. So, what do you do in that aspect? How do you keep going in those tough times and those tough days? What keeps
Yeah,
you going?
what keeps me going is knowing that, first and foremost, my faith. Like I know that, God never puts anything on me more than what I can bear. So I'm grounded in my faith. And so I know that I will never be without. But what I do have may look different. So I had to get to a place where I became okay with, hey, I may not make my six figures anymore. So my identity has to remove itself from associating with a dollar amount and a title, which is what I put on myself and created my image based upon that. So I let all of that go. And then I decided to say, who is Travis now? And then I found that those avenues and that passion and wrote it down and put pen to paper. And that became my therapy that released all of that issues, all of those issues, all of the anxiety, and then it allowed the clear vision and the clear space to come in and say, this is who you are, listen to yourself and move forward.
Miriam?
I think it's important to remind yourself that this is because of nothing that you did. It is hard. I can't say that there aren't days where I'm like, well, how did I get here? But like Travis said, you have to just kind of go, not put your worth, what your job title was, or what, or how much money you made, but rather who you are as a person. I have my kids, I have my family, I have my cats. That's some days that's where I get my joy from, and that should just be enough. Again, I'm blessed to have good neighbors and good friends who also happen to know about the industry. I reach out to them. We talk, we walk, we have a drink or five. But it is what it is. I'm blessed enough that I'm married, so we're not a single income family. I don't have to always worry about the money, but I do have two kids in college, and I do wonder, wow, if this could have happened any other time, really didn't have to happen right now, but it happened, and you don't have control over it. You just have to kind of accept, acknowledge, and try to move on.
Yeah, and if I could give any advice in the same vein, I would kind of, piggyback off of what Travis said about really redefining who you are in this space and being okay with that, right? Your life may look different than it did before, but that's okay. You get to now, like he said, put pen to paper, and like I always like to say, design your life. What is your biggest, wildest dream? What is something that makes you happy? You really get to take this time. I think this time has been a reflection piece for all of us, wherever we are in our lives and careers. But now more than ever is a perfect time for you to define who you are at your core outside of the shell of your career in the workplace, and the person that you've created yourself to be successful in corporate. I think so many of us lose our identity in the work that we do, and then you get to a position or a place like this and you feel like you've kind of lost yourself, right? Everything that you've had has now come crashing down because you built your entire identity around that thing. So that's why I think it's so important to do, some self-reflection and soul searching and figure out who you are at your core and really reframe your mindset around what you do. And not that the job makes you who you are, but the skills that you bring to that job and the person that you are and the expertise that you possess, that you carry with you to any company or organization, that is what makes you who you are. And so if you look at it like that, no matter how many career transitions you have or how many times you have to reframe who you are, you still possess those skills. You're still who you are. You're still great at what you do, even outside of, the confines of the company or organization you work for. So that is what I would, press upon you, whether you're working or not working, or in the middle of a transition or not, just really think about who you are at your core, what makes you great at what you do, what brings you joy, and how you can really take power over that thing and operate in it, even outside of the workplace. So we're going to transition out of here. So I'll give each of our panelists who are still with us an opportunity to let all of you know how you can connect with them. So Travis, take it away. Let people know how they can connect with you after this.
Will do. And Jasmine, you just preached a sermon right there.
I'm sending the collection plate your way.
And one other quick thing on that last question that Tara gave us. Also, it's okay to seek therapy. I think a lot of the times we operate at such high levels for our organizations because in our field, almost all of us are A-type personalities. And we carry so much stress and anxiety already from our jobs on top of our home life, our personal lives, and we bury all of that. And our insides could be a wreck. On the outside, we're wearing Versace, but on the inside, you're at the Goodwill thrift store. So I highly recommend seeking therapy, finding a friend or a family member. One of the things that I learned when I launched my first blog post was I had left my family out of the struggle that I was dealing with from a financial perspective. And all they saw was, oh, it's just Travis. Like, he's got it all together. He's always buttoned up. He's cool. But on the inside, I was broken, and my parents were upset that they had no clue because I hadn't shared it. So I would say, find a therapist or also talk to a friend and just let it go. It's okay. Everybody's dealing with something. But you can find me on my Instagram at TP710, and I put my blog link in the chat comments as well. And that is https furloughed.travis.blogspot.com.
So tell us what your blog is about. What is some of the content that you have on your blog?
Yeah, so the blog post started as a writing journal for myself, and it was never meant for public consumption. Because when I wrote that first one, it was like, there is no way I'm telling people all of my dirt. And
we love dirt.
I know. I know. It's not. But when I say dirt, I mean my mess.
Yeah.
And I shared it with my two best friends, Sybil Davis, who did work for the Philly CVB before she left, and Eric Scott, who works for the DC destinations here in DC CVB. And they read it and they were like, what? And so I prayed on it, and it was like, God, do I release this, to the world? Am I going to be this vulnerable and completely rip the mask off of who my family, my friends, my colleagues of ever since I've been, in this industry of 20 years thought that I was, and I said, sure, why not? Let's do it. I launched the first blog post and it blew up. And it was also like the phone, the text, the DMs are like, we had no clue, but also I am just as tore up. And it became a therapy session for strangers that I had no clue or that I was connected to. And I posted it on Twitter, and I'm getting DMs from people in the UK, in Africa, and they're all telling me their story. And it's like, oh God, this wasn't about me. It was about the network. We are all dealing with our own personal masks that we wear. And we need to get to a point that we rip that mask off, no matter how many layers there are, and be your authentic self. Because it's okay. You don't have to be Mr. or Mrs. Perfect. You are such an intersectionality of your life, and the world needs to see all of that. So, and that birthed the blog by Travis. So, and now the book is coming because I need to go further into detail.
Yes, you do. Miriam?
Well, I can't wait to read your blog, Travis, because I think at the core, we're all the same. We feel the same emotions. We feel lost the same way. Happiness is the same wherever we go. So, so I can be found on LinkedIn. That would be the easiest way. You just Google my name and you'll find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect, love to stay in touch, and just find somebody and share, the good days and the bad days. It's really important. And bet Travis, you speak for all of us on that blog. I have no doubt.
So Jeff had to leave us, but he has a queso company called Empty Bowl Queso. So he can be contacted at www.emptybowlqueso.com. If you want to try some of his amazing queso, it has rave reviews from some of our audience members here. And then myself, you can visit my website at www.jdysonthebrand.com. And if you would like to, I am offering a free 30-minute assessment for your personal brand. So if you want to hop on the phone with me and we can chat about some of your career goals, some of your business goals, building that side hustle, you can schedule that on my website. And I also have a free personal brand playbook that allows you to, it asks you some questions and helps you to kind of assess where you are so you can start to build your personal brand and create that income stream that you control or reinvent yourself in the COVID pandemic. So again, thank you to the PCMA Capital Chapter for allowing us to be here. We hope that you enjoyed this session and you got so much fruit out of it. Definitely connect with all the panelists. Check out Travis's blog. Connect with Miriam later, and definitely buy some queso from Jeff here, who had to leave us. And we are going to get out of there. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So why you can't get around it? So low you can't get under it. So high you can't get over it. We gon' break it down.
Here's a chance to dance away out of our constriction, out of our constriction. We're gonna be grooving up and down, hang up alleyway, with the groove we only got. We shall all be moved. You don't feel me now, hey. Ready or not, here we come, getting down on the one which we believe in.
Under a roof, getting down, just hold the force of it. One nation and we're on the move. Nothing can stop us now. One nation under a roof, getting down
For what?
for the funk of it. One nation and we're on the move. Nothing can stop us now.
What the world needs now is funk on every block. Cause everybody rocks when the mothership docks. With rhythm on our side, we cannot be stopped. And as planetary citizens, listen, we are not CYX or the next generation. We are the continuum, searching with urgent patience. More than millennials, we are perennial emeralds. Glistening, listening to ethical generals. Embracing notes from Grace Lee's scroll. As these days unfold, we make broken streets whole. Resilience meets brilliance, the key is children. Tomorrow is promised, cause we intend to build it. We a community of beauty and passion, endeavor to fashion